Welcome back, beautiful souls, to another episode of Healing Mindset. I am Nazish, and today we're stepping into a conversation rooted in resilience, meaning, and the deeper layers of healing. Joining me is amazing Dr. Chloe Weber, doctor of Chinese medicine, herbalist, and mother, whose personal and professional journey has been reshaped by love, challenge, and an unshakable devotion to healing. Her work bridges ancient wisdom with modern curiosity and invites us to rethink what medicine really is and what it asks of us. Chloe, welcome to Healing Mindset. I'm truly grateful you are here. How are you feeling tonight?
Thank you so much. It's such an honor, and I'm feeling pretty good. My dogs have been trying to drive me crazy this morning, but we're gonna get through it.
Definitely, we're going to get through it. So, let's begin with something that feels foundational to who you are. How has Chinese medicine shaped your understanding of perseverance, both personally and professionally?
Oh, what a great question. So, Chinese medicine is just such a beautiful, dynamic understanding of not only the body, but of the world around us. And so when you start to understand Chinese medicine, you start to understand yourself deeper, and you also start to understand how the planet moves, how things interact, and how these dynamic forces work together. So, really, in Chinese medicine, we're looking at the ecology of the body and seeing how that's also reflected in nature. It's such a beautiful, powerful system. And so, one of the things that's been really incredible in my life is I graduated from Chinese medicine school while I was still pregnant with my son, Remy. And he was born a couple months later and later was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called STXBP1. So, I have been on a journey with him of trusting my medicine and supporting him with natural herbs and healing. And he has done so incredibly well. And as a mom and as a single mom who is also taking care of a child who has significant disabilities, I have used Chinese medicine to make sure that I am showing up as my best version of myself for him, which is really the greatest goal and honor that I can do as a mom and as a human. So it's been really beautiful to be on this journey as a practitioner and be able to really lean into the medicine that I love and understand so deeply.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And this reflection reveals not just the challenge you faced, but also the philosophy you carried through. And I think our listeners will really resonate with how inner strength becomes practice, not just an accident.
Absolutely. I think it's I always joke that Remy is the best teacher I never asked for. You never when you have a child, when you get pregnant, you never expect that you're gonna have a child with such significant needs. And in him, I just see so much strength and so much beauty. He really struggles with even the smallest things, things that we take for granted all day, every day. Feeding yourself, going to the bathroom on your own, communicating. He's completely nonverbal. All of these things are tremendous challenges for him. And yet he shows up for therapies, he shows up for life, he shows up for school, he shows up in every way and gives 200% all of the time. He's the happiest person I know. Not that he doesn't have his moments, but really, he really appreciates the little things in life. And he's just such an inspiration to me. And so I think as moms and as parents, sometimes we often give so much of ourselves to our kids that we sort of forget who we are. So that was a really big lesson for me as well, was learning that I could do all of these many things for him. And I've done more things that I could list on this podcast in order to support his health, from going to Ecuador for months at a time to do neuro rehab, to buying a hyperbaric chamber, to starting a CBD company, combining Chinese herbs with hemp. Um, so many things for him. But what's most important for him is for me to be a happy and healthy mom. And that was a really hard earned lesson after really burning myself out and realizing that none of it really matters if the person he's with every day isn't able to genuinely be happy and healthy and show up ready to party, which is what he needs.
That is so amazing, and I'm so proud of you and Rene for actually making it work through. I can be so sure that it requires a lot of strength on both of your parts and is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
So, Chinese medicine has such a deep way of reading the body. In your experience, how does the body communicate resilience before the mind even realizes that there's a struggle?
Well, I think the body will show signs that there's a struggle, right? And they might be subtle, and hopefully they're subtle because otherwise there's more of an issue, right? But you're gonna start feeling fatigue or brain fog if your digestion is off. Chinese medicine does a great job diagnostically. So some of the things that we're really looking for when we're talking with patients are, how is your digestion? Are you going to the bathroom regularly? Is it well formed? Do you have gas and bloating? What's going on with that? And that's a really taboo subject for many people. And people get very uncomfortable when you start asking about their poops. But it's a very important indication of health. For women, what's your cycle like? Is your cycle getting longer or shorter? Is it regular? Are you getting it every 28 days or somewhere around that? Or is it skipping around? Are you having cramps? That's a sign that you're in high stress mode, right? Are you waking up between 1 and 3 in the morning? That might indicate other things. Do you have digestive issues with your cycle? So there's a ton of things that our cycle can also tell us about our health. So our body is talk to us and show us what's out of balance, what's out of alignment. And what's so beautiful about Chinese medicine is that we're able to use herbs and acupuncture and just lifestyle and diet in order to rebalance the body. So instead of, treating disease, we're really trying to harmonize your body so that you can build health and vitality and resilience, as you're saying.
I love how you frame it, and also an amazing background of amazing herb tipping. They look super amazing. But and it is also like that our body whispers before it even starts screaming to something. And then do you think that people sometimes misinterpret those early signals as problem rather than invitation to slow down?
Of course. I mean, we have been so taught to just push through any issue that comes up. I mean, even when you think about a fever, the fever is our body's reaction to an illness, to a virus, to a bacteria, to whatever's going on in our body, right? The fevers are there to activate the immune system and clear that pathogen out of the body. But instead of letting the fever play out, which obviously there are certain levels of fever that you do want to decrease. So if it's over like 103 degrees, um, you know, take some Tylenol, but most people will just jump to taking Tylenol, which gets rid of that fever, which stops that immune activation pathway, stops the detoxification pathways as well. All of these things, even if you're getting cramps as women, we get these cramps and we just say, well, this is just a part of life. We don't get curious about what it is that our body's telling us. So I feel like our society has just pushed us all to just keep going at all costs. Ignore the symptoms that are coming up. Oh, I just have gut issues because my family's always had gut issues. It's not a big deal, and it really is our body screaming at us and hopefully whispering at us, but it gets louder and louder over time. And it's astounding how infrequently people will listen to these messages that we are receiving from our bodies, because if we start to learn how to interpret them, then we can really just start shifting things uh in small ways. Like I always say that something is better than nothing. Taking a few minutes to breathe and meditate, or taking a walk out in nature, getting an extra glass of water, hopefully not iced, adding some more fruits and vegetables in. I try and not have my patients get rid of things because that can be really stressful. But if you can add in a small bit of peace, of time, of good, healthy, whole foods for you, all of these small shifts do add up over time and really help build health and resilience.
That is such a powerful insight, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people ignoring these daily things that we go through will start questioning it now. Will start becoming more aware about it. That why are the cramps happening? Because I am thinking about it right now. So, coming up to the journey you have, the incredible journey you have had with your sons, which has touched so many hearts, and it has been a huge part of your work. How has that experience shaped the way you view the limits and possibilities of traditional medicine?
Um, Honestly, in terms of building health and vitality, I don't think that there's anything better than traditional medicines. And whether that is Native American medicine, whether that's Chinese medicine, whether that's Ayurvedic medicine, whether that's, I think these traditional medicines that have been used for thousands of years that really honor the entire body, the mind, the body, the spirit, the whole ecosystem, are the most powerful systems that we have for healing and building health. I've been incredibly disappointed by the Western medical system. And that happens increasingly as I see people come to me over and over again saying that they've gone from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, and they're not getting answers. They're not getting help. They're just getting more and more and more pharmaceuticals. And pharmaceuticals in Western medicine have their place. If you are going to the emergency room, if you get in a car accident, please go to the ER. Like, and even for certain chronic conditions, pharmaceuticals can be very helpful. But to me, if we look at the wisdom of these cultures that have used these medical systems for thousands of years, they really had the most powerful path towards actually building health. What I see with pharmaceuticals is that often it's just a band-aid on top of the symptoms that are going on. It's not actually addressing the root cause of disharmony within the body. So once you put that band-aid on, something else is going to pop up and say, hey, there's still an issue here, which often then is just addressed by another band-aid and another pharmaceutical. And so traditional medicines really get to the root cause of what's going on, help rebalance the body and build health over time instead of just responding to disease and responding to the symptoms. And, somebody like Remy is one of the greatest examples of how powerful Chinese medicine really is. I mean, most of the kids with his disorder are on 4, 5, 6 different pharmaceuticals, and they are incredibly disengaged. Their nervous systems are not well regulated. And with Remy, he still has many, many challenges. I'm not able to change his genetic mutation. However, he is living his best life. Like, that child is so happy, he's so healthy, and he's doing fantastic. And that's all we can hope for any of us?
That is actually very true. And we all have our days and we all have our not so good days. But it is amazing that Renee is making through it, and which is such an amazing moment, and this is such a good story. This is such a good insight for all the people who are listening to us right now. And hearing you say that really shows that how healing can evolve beyond a structure of system, mainly
Yeah.
through love and necessity, which is just so amazing.
Well, and I think more and more people are having trouble getting actually diagnosed. And we have so many complex issues at play right now because we've got, so many environmental toxins, so many toxins in our foods. So many people have hidden pathogens, whether they're latent viruses like Lyme and Epstein-Barr. There's so much going on, and really, what I find again is that so many people are not getting correctly diagnosed by Western medicine. And so in Chinese medicine, we don't need to know exactly what that pathogen is. We are able to diagnose that there is something in the system that is out of balance. We're able to diagnose how that virus or how that pathogen is acting within the body and use our medical system in order to address it even without a Western diagnosis, whether that's autoimmune diseases or Lyme disease or anything along those lines, which are things that I see coming up more and more in society. And also, these neurodevelopmental disorders that have absolutely skyrocketed. So in Chinese medicine, we technically can't treat any Western diagnosis. So I can't say that we treat autoimmune diseases or epilepsy or anything like that. But within our system, we are able to diagnose these issues and address them based on our diagnostics.
That is actually very good, and maybe it will benefit a lot of people who might know somebody with a similar issue or who might need help with somebody. So it is amazing. So have there been moments where the spiritual and the scientific met in a way you didn't expect?
One of the things that was most interesting to me was when Remy was diagnosed, I was like, okay, I'm smart. I'm a doctor. I'm gonna figure this out. And I went full in, I had a 14-foot ramp in my living room. I was having him crawl down it to strengthen specific parts of his brain. I was doing everything. I was studying all night long. And at a certain point, there was just this shift for me in which I realized that this was not an intellectual journey, it was a spiritual one. And that loving Remy for exactly who he is the most powerful thing that I can do to support him. And that has been really miraculous for me. And then also, when it comes to the herbs in Chinese medicine, I think there's just so much reverence for nature and the the wisdom that comes in this medicine, the wisdom that comes in each and every one of these plants. And it makes so much sense that the whoever created us also created these plants. And that's how these plants are here to help us heal and to grow and to hopefully help heal the planet as well. So I really do find that there's a deep spirituality interwoven into both Chinese medicine and into my journey with Remy.
That is so beautifully put. And, I feel like that sometimes breakthroughs begin where the conventional system stops.
Yes.
Okay. So, in a world obsessed with fast solutions, you have continued to champion ancient herbal wisdom. Why do you feel these traditions still hold so much relevance today?
Because I've seen because I see it, because I feel it, because I watch it change lives. And it's hard for people to look at slower medicine, right? But when we think about it, Western medicine has only been around for about 100 years, and it's argued to be the third leading cause of death in America. So nobody can really argue that the Western medical system here in America, at least, is doing its job correctly. People are not building health. People are not mentally or physically healthy in this country. It has been a dramatic decline, mental and physical health, that is just terrifying. So I don't think there's any. I think it's very rare to find people who think that this system is working. And whether they think that the system isn't working because the pharmaceutical companies or the medical industrial complex is corrupt, those are certainly arguments that I would agree with. But I think the problem lies more systemically within the medical paradigm. Again, in Western medicine, we're really just addressing these minute issues. To say we're looking at, um, depression or anxiety, they're looking at the serotonin pathways in the brain. They're trying to increase serotonin there. But what they're not seeing is a complex interweb of different neurotransmitters within the brain. They're not seeing how the gut might be impacting the brain, which we know is so essential because 90% of our serotonin is made in the gut. So here they're just giving you a pharmaceutical to increase the serotonin. Meanwhile, you're just not making enough serotonin in your gut because you're eating shit that's causing chronic inflammation. And so you're not able to get that neurotransmitter made to the point that you need. Whereas if you just sort of look at the whole body and address the actual underlying causes, then you can naturally make that serotonin. And guess what? There's more and more research coming out that SSRIs have very limited efficacy and ability to work long term, and they have incredibly dangerous side effects and long term effects, including suicidal ideation. So to me, pharmaceuticals for chronic conditions are largely very short sighted. And while we do live in a world where everybody's just expecting a magic pill, I think it's important for us to look at the trajectory that we are on as a society in terms of our health and our happiness and our connection with each other, and take a step back and see the ways in which traditional medicines, traditional East Asian medicines can support us living healthier, more connected, vibrant lives, because it might take a little bit longer, but it's going to feel a hell of a lot better at the end of the day, and it's going to be a lot more sustainable.
That is something which I believe is very true. And also, just because old wisdom, it's old wisdom, it isn't outdated. It's simply the old wisdom is outdated simply because it's old. It holds so much more weightage and it's so much more, like according to you say, helpful and amazing.
Yeah, well, and we can also, one of the reasons I was so drawn to Chinese herbs as opposed to really focusing on acupuncture, which is much more common in the States and in most Western cultures, is because we can look at the pharmacological actions of all of these herbs. Like, we have research on what these herbs do. It's not like we can't figure it out from a Western perspective. So, like, it satiates both parts of our brains, right? So you can get the Eastern energetics and the Western pharmacological action. So we can look at which herbs are gonna increase serotonin. We can look at which herbs are going to help with gut function and, dysbiosis and all of these different things. Like, we know the pharmacological actions of each and every one of these herbs, so it's not like it's just ancient wisdom that's coming down from afar that's just total woo-woo. Like, we can look at what it's actually doing within the body, and, for those who are more focused on Western medicine, hopefully that will help them find some more peace and curiosity about the herbal medicine in particular, because there is plenty of research, and that makes people happy.
That is actually amazing. So, is there a common misconception about herbal medicines that you feel most compelled to correct?
Well, a lot of people think that there's no research in Chinese medicine. Oh, my dog.
It's okay.
Um, what is he barking at? Um, I just had a comment on one of my videos yesterday, and they were saying that Chinese medicine is based on nothing. And so, my response to that is and was that Chinese medicine is a medical paradigm that has been around for thousands of years, has had millions and millions of doctors add to our evidence-based body of research. So we have researched this, we have done trial and error for thousands of years with millions of doctors. We have so much deep knowledge about the body and about the herbs. And again, it just is a system that makes sense. So the more you start to look into it, the more you start dipping your toe into it, the more you understand that this is just how our bodies work and how we are supposed to be living. It's not just a medical paradigm, it really is a way to live your life and to honor yourself and our planet and those that you love, in a more deep and powerful way. So, there's a lot of research on the herbs, there's a lot of research on the acupuncture, and there's been thousands of research years of research, from many, many doctors. So I just always like to remind people that. And if you're a practitioner of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, you have to do a minimum of a 3-year course, which is we do 8 courses a semester, 3 semesters a year to get it done in 3 years. So that is the course equivalent of 4.5 master's degrees or 2.5 law degrees in 3 years. So it's not just like getting a massage license. That's also something that we get a lot of people will be like, "Oh, could you give me a massage?" I'm like, "I'm a doctor." So
That is so, that is actually funny at some place, and I can believe people coming and asking those questions. Yeah. So perseverance is admired, but living it can be exhausting. How do you personally differentiate between pushing forward and honoring your limits?
another great question. That is something I struggle with. Um, I again, in my journey with Remy, one of the things that I realized was very important was for me, as I said, to be happy and healthy. And in order for me to be happy and healthy, the other thing that I needed to really focus on was honoring myself as an individual and my personal curiosities, my professional goals, my desire to have friends and be a social human being. So I have a practice that I do in the morning, which involves meditation and gratitude and different things. I make sure that I'm getting out in nature every day. It helps that I live in the mountains and I have two psychotic dogs that need to be walked outside every day. But I really do try and listen to my body and honor, the reality that there's only so much one can do in a day and that burning out isn't going to help anything. So I really do try and make that time, that space for myself. And if that means going to bed really early or sort of being a half-assed mom one night or leaving the house a bit of a mess, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I sort of honor that I have a lot of balls up in the air and some of them are going to fall. And I get better and better at giving myself the grace to let those balls drop.
Trust me, that is the level of honesty our listeners are needing, is needed by our listeners to hear. I mean, strength does not always mean never stopping. It means knowing when to stop, and it is amazing that you are trying to figure it out for yourself, and many of our listeners will also feel motivated by this.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. So, Chloe, this has been such a grounding and inspiring conversation with you. I know many of our listeners will want to stay connected and learn more. Where can people find your about your work, your clinic, and follow along with your journey?
So I've got radicalrootsherbs.com. That's my CBD and Chinese herb company. I've got Noxy Herbs, Noxi herbs.com, which is my women's hormone health company. And then radicalremedy.org is my blog and podcast, which I should be releasing new episodes again soon.
That is amazing. I'm gonna check it out right now after this podcast, and I hope many of our listeners do that as well. So, as we close, let today's conversation stir something deeper in you. The courage to look inward and the willingness to care for your body before it cries for attention, and the reminder that healing is a partnership between knowledge, intuition, and perseverance. If tonight's insight moved you, let's take a small step towards nurturing your own roots and whatever you look like for you. Your journey, after all, is your own medicine. Until next time, I am Nazish and this is Healing Mindset.